Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Mackenzie and I am a homeschooling mom to 4 kids. It's an exciting day. I am answering all of your guys' questions that you have sent in to me for the Q&A, and thank you guys so much for asking all of these questions. I have had so much fun reading through them. I'm just really excited to answer them, so let's get to it. Okay, so my first question that I got from you guys is, how is our flow going since we got rid of tutoring? And if you don't know what that question is about, we had tutoring at the beginning of the year for one of my children. And this was for like helping with their reading and their memorization. They were having a hard time like memorizing math facts. And so it was a cognitive therapy to help the left and right brain work together. We were having a tutor come to our house. She was nice enough to come to our house and work with our kids. She was doing both of my older girls. She was really accommodating to all the needs that we had. So it was really nice. She was having us do these exercises for an hour out of the day every day, and I had to be there for the full hour with them, doing the exercises with them. It took a lot of brain power for my kids, and so as soon as they were done with their cognitive therapy, they were exhausted and they didn't want to do any school after that. And so it made it so hard to do anything the first half of the school year, and it was miserable. And so although they were making improvement, it was like killing our homeschool and they weren't able to do their work. And so I just made the executive decision to stop that and to go back to bringing in the things into our homeschool that brought us joy, because I felt like after that I made them do math and language arts and we didn't do any of our fun things that brought the joy into our homeschool. So I decided to stop and just bring back in all of those good things again, and it has been so good. It's just gone back to how homeschool was before. They're able to do their math and their language arts, but then they're happier when they're doing those required core subjects. And then we get to do like our Teach Me Health and Homeopathy and our Story of the World, or we can work along with the Well-Educated Heart rotation, and it has just brought so much joy back into our homeschool. So it has been so good. We've been much happier in our homeschool. So I am so glad that we are able to bring those things into our homeschool that bring us joy. Okay, my favorite subjects to teach. I really love read aloud. I'm not sure if that counts as a subject. It is so fun. Especially, I really love doing read aloud through Brave Writer. They have a language arts program, they have their darts, and then they have like writing programs as well. With their dart programs, they have a book that comes out every month, and they are the best books. My kids have thoroughly enjoyed those books, and I've thoroughly enjoyed them. And so it's just nice to all sit together as a family and read a book that we all enjoy, and we're all laughing together. It's just something that has been really good for our family. I want my kids to sit and listen together, and then we all have like something that we can talk about afterwards, and it's just really fun. And I think we're gonna do that all the way up through however long we homeschool. So I really like read aloud, but I also really like Teach Me Health and Homeopathy, which I have mentioned on my channel many times before. I really am into holistic living and holistic medicine, and so going through the Teach Me Health and Homeopathy curriculum is really fun, not only for me because I'm learning a lot through it, but my kids really enjoy it as well. We also really like Story of the World. It's kind of hard because I love teaching with the Well-Educated Heart, which has a history rotation, and you just go through the rotation and it has all these resources of books that you can go through to teach that subject. That has history books, but then there's also Story of the World, and I kind of want to do both, and it's so hard to pick between the two because they're so different, but they're both so fun. Science is also really fun. I feel like I love to teach everything except math. Math is not my favorite. Which is probably pretty common. At least the math that I'm doing, Math UC, they just watch a video on the computer and then they have their workbook that they work in, and then they'll bring questions to me. That one is not as involved. We do math really quickly in the day. We don't spend too much time in math because I don't want to torture my kids for too long. Let's see. Number 3, is your family in a co-op? So yes, we are in a co-op this year, and it's been really fun. My kids really like it. Co-ops are just really nice because it's really good to like have my kids go and learn from somebody else, and maybe that person has different passions than I do, so they can teach something that I wouldn't be able to teach as well to my kids. So it's really nice to have that dynamic as well through a co-op. Before we moved to this house, we were in a co-op for 3 years, and that co-op was so fun. My kids had really good friends, like best friends from that co-op, and I was best friends with their moms, and so it was really, really fun. So down here, I'm trying to find something that's similar, where I find a co-op where like my kids are finding really good friends and I'm finding really good friends. I don't know like what we're gonna do in the future for next year. I don't know if we're gonna stay with this co-op, if we're gonna try something new. A co-op is something that we always have been a part of. If I'm not with this co-op now, we will be part of a different co-op next year. Okay, question number 4 is, was I homeschooled? And I was not homeschooled. I was public schooled all the way through. Me and my siblings, we were all public schooled. Okay, the next question is, how do you homeschool multiple kids? So I have 4 kids ranging from ages 10 in 4th grade all the way down to 18 months. And we always do homeschool when the 18-month-old is napping, and that is huge. We were trying to do homeschool with him awake, and it was a nightmare. He was getting into all of our homeschool cubbies and like all of our math manipulatives, all of our like little Legos, and he was dumping them all over the homeschool floor while I was trying to teach. I feel like he would always cry when I'm doing read aloud, so it's really hard to teach when you have a toddler awake in the house. So we always do it when he's napping. And then we do most of our subjects together. Like any subject I can teach the family together, I teach it together. And even a lot of like language arts, I'll teach my 2nd and 4th grader together. So they'll learn grammar together. They will do spelling together. Like I will dictate a sentence to my 4th grader, and then I will type up the sentence, but then leave blanks in for my 2nd grader to write in words that I feel like are at her level, that she could just write in those words for her spelling. So for spelling, I like to put them together as much as possible. Also for language arts, putting them together, I will, like with Brave Writer, that's an age range, right? It's not like the darts are just for 4th grade. It's from 8 to 10-year-olds. And so my 7-year-old does it along with my newly 10-year-old. And then of course, science and history can be done together. I think really the only subject that I have them separate is math. And while I have them working on their math, I'll work with my preschooler. And then also there's subjects that I do have them work independently. So I'll have them like go practice violin, typing, or reading on their own also while I'm working with the preschooler. So they kind of have their turns. The preschooler, while I'm doing family school, he's mostly just like coloring. He'll listen. But yeah, he's mostly coloring the whole time. He'll do some handwriting at the table. He'll listen to the read alouds. He likes listening to read aloud. Okay, the next question is, how do you find your curriculum you like and works for your kids? So in the beginning of my homeschool journey, I just watched a ton of YouTube. Was searching, different things for math. And when I first started homeschooling, I started at like a hybrid school where my kids would go to school twice a week. The rest of the week, my kids were doing homeschool at home. And that school had resources. They had curriculum that I could take home and teach my kids. And so that was like my first exposure to homeschool curriculum. And they had Math UC, they had Brave Writer, they had All About Reading. And so that was like the bulk of our schooling that we started with. And those have been our staples the whole way through. So I've tried a lot of different curriculums, and then we always just kind of end up at where we started. I really think that you could find the curriculum that works best for your kids just through trial and error. You have to try it out. And I think the thing that I realized after trying so many different curriculums is that you really just can't find the perfect curriculum. There's really no such thing. You would have to create it yourself. And over time, I just kind of started to lean more towards Charlotte Mason philosophy, which is where you really don't need a homeschool curriculum, which is really nice. I do like to use the Charlotte Mason philosophy a lot. But then as far as things like history and science, for the majority of our homeschool, we just used books for those as well. History, before I started using like Story of the World and Teach Me Health and Homeopathy, we were just using the Well Educated Heart online resources for those things. And it's free and it was great. And my kids loved it. And it's really just a big book list with ideas for activities. And it's just so fun. So we have been using that throughout our whole homeschool journey as well. Okay, the next question is, what field trips do we go on with the kids? And to be honest, I am not a big field trip person. I think it's because I have a toddler who naps, so that makes it kind of tricky. I do not like to mess with nap time. It gives us like a shorter window of when we can go to places, but we will go to museums. There's a few museums that were close to where I lived last year. It was like a natural curiosity museum. There was a dinosaur museum. There was a biosphere, like a butterfly biosphere that the kids went in, which was really fun. And then they had like this outdoor gardens place we could go to. And so we did that a lot. Now, where I'm living now, they have an art museum, which I'm really excited to try. We haven't been to that one. And then there's also a few free museums close to me, like an animal museum and another art museum. There are also a lot of farms near me that host homeschoolers, so I'm really excited about that. My parents are also moving down this area, and they're buying quite a bit of land, and they're gonna put like cows on their land and chickens, so we'll probably go on a lot of field trips to grandma's house, which I'm excited about. We also, one of my favorite field trips that we went on was to a big raspberry patch, and we picked all of the raspberries that we wanted, and then you just got to pay for your raspberries and take them home and eat them, and that was just so fun. Okay, question number 8 is, how do you find other homeschool kids your kids' age and do things during the day? So I have found all of our homeschool friends either through co-ops or through Facebook homeschooling groups. So if you are not a part of any Facebook groups, I would highly recommend that, just searching your area homeschool groups, and most likely you'll find one in your area, and there will be people on there looking for play dates, looking for people to go on field trips with, and I see posts in my area all the time. That's a really good place to look. Before I was a part of Facebook groups for homeschooling, I just met people in my co-op, and that's where I made my best friends, and that's where my kids made their best friends. Co-ops have always been really helpful and really positive in our family. Okay, the next question is, was your husband on board? If not, what changed his mind, or how did he navigate that? So my husband was never really excited about the idea of homeschooling, but he did it was a slow process, because I mentioned to him that I was thinking about homeschooling when my daughter was 3, so it was a few years before she started kindergarten. And so it kind of prepped my husband, I guess, for the idea of homeschooling. And then my daughter's kindergarten year, I found that hybrid program. So I told my husband, look, we're not homeschooling 100%, we're doing 50-50. I was like, if I totally bomb it, it's kindergarten, it's not a big deal. I can just send her to school the next year. And so there was kind of like that transition that kind of eased us into homeschooling. And I would say even to this day, I don't know if he's like 100% on board, but he knows how much it means to me, and he knows the reasons why I'm homeschooling, and he has seen many benefits to homeschool. So he's not completely opposed to it, but he just wants to support what I'm doing because he understands that I'm the one that's going to be teaching them. He's pretty much like, if I don't have to do anything, then that's fine. It's up to you. It's really just been up to me. And so that's how we have navigated that. Okay, the next question is, what was my exposure to homeschool before I started with my own family? So all growing up, my cousins were homeschooled. I just kind of felt like they really knew what they were doing, and they seemed very confident in themselves, and they seemed really mature for their age, and they just seemed like they had everything together. So they were always a really good example to me of homeschooling. And then fast forward to when my oldest brother got married, him and his wife decided to homeschool their kids. So I had a little bit of exposure, a little bit more exposure to homeschooling. Okay, the next question is, where did I grow up? I was born in Las Vegas, and I lived there until I was about 5 years old. Then we moved to Utah, and we lived there for a few years. We moved to San Diego, lived there for a couple years, and then moved back to Utah. So it's in between Vegas, San Diego, and Utah. And I have always wanted to move to like a faraway land, not too far away. I kind of want to stay in the US, but moving to a faraway state I think would be really cool. But my husband works remote, so we could go anywhere. But he just wants to stay here in Utah. We have family on both sides here in Utah, so that's good. Our kids get to grow up with their cousins. Utah's really cool. There's a lot of rock climbing, hiking, there's lakes, there's just so much outdoor recreational activities we could do, which is always really fun. The next one is, what is my biggest pet peeve? And this one is not hard to answer at all because I just know what my pet peeve is and I hate it so much. But I really hate it when people burp, and I really think that burps are like more gross than farts. I feel like when people burp, it's almost like on purpose, which is disgusting. But like when someone farts, I'm pretty sure they're trying to hold it in and it just seeps out, and then you just feel bad for them. So it's funny, like all of my husband's family thinks I'm so weird and they just burp all the time. And then they look at me and they're like, oh, sorry, I forgot you don't like that. All right, and then the last question is, what is my favorite movie? I just really like heartwarming movies. And so I really like the movie My Girl, The Sound of Music. That one's really good. One that I grew up watching that I love a lot that I probably wouldn't want to show my kids is Grease. I just grew up with that movie and I love it. And I love all the songs. I know every word to all the songs. It's just such a fun movie. I love that one. But I also really like more of a modern movie. I really like The Greatest Showman. That one's a really good one too. But in all honesty, I don't really watch a whole lot of movies nowadays. I would say it's mostly YouTube. We really like this YouTube channel. My husband and I, we watch it every Thursday night because that's when he comes out with his new episodes. It's called The Y-Files, and it's like it's a conspiracy theory show, which I'm sure many of you homeschoolers would love. He goes over like aliens, like underground bunkers in Antarctica. He has gone into Bigfoot a few times. He talks a lot about like the FBI and the CIA, and so it's a fun one to watch. We like watching that one. Those are all of my questions that I received from you guys. Thank you so much for asking questions again, and it was really fun to answer those. So if you guys like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I will see you guys later.